I needed to make this video. I've been putting it off and trying to get it started and putting it off and trying to get it started, that I just need to actually get it started. So, how dare I not make my bed? So I hope you all can ignore the mess behind me. Like, if you have been anywhere on my channel before, you know that I am in a room and all that. Like, a pretty decent, really big room, but I have a lot of stuff too. So ignore all that. Anyways, so you might be wondering what this video is about. Like, if you look at any other part of my YouTube channel, you know that I do writing stuff. I do like, hey, you can do it. Yay, creativity stuff. And I'm a nerd and do anime related things, maybe, possibly, and all that. So this is actually very, very different, but I could still incorporate it into the creative mind. So that's why I'm calling this Creative Finances. And I really hope no one else has stolen that name. But even if they have, this is Creative Finances with Ian Chaffin. So, you know, it's not like other people's, it's mine. Okay, so now you may be wondering why a person like me would do financing things. It's because I think this country and my generation, which I'm almost 30-ish, so I guess that would put me in the millennial generation? Maybe? And people younger than me and, you know, all that. There's been a very bad problem. And no one really talks about it except for really old people, like Dave Ramsey. And if you know that name, you probably know what I'm trying to get at. It's people being in debt and being okay with debt. So before I go on, I just wanted to tell you, definitely ignore my bed. My bed is usually made. That is not how it usually looks. But other than that, this isn't a video about how dare you do things with money. This is a video about how dare I do things with money, and I'm going to put myself under the bus before anyone else can. But in all seriousness, yeah, I am totally putting myself under the bus. This is probably why I didn't want to make this video, because I didn't want people to think, oh no, how dare she? Like, well, just look at her. And, you know, not in a cool way or a nerdy way, like when I cosplay and all that, so yeah. So yeah, this video is about putting myself under the bus and dealing with a big problem that, you know, pretty much everyone is dealing with, except for those few who are very, very smart and not dealing with it, so thank you. So if you're like me and you have debt, yes, you're not alone. And I just want to put that out there. A lot of people, they get so entangled with debt. Some people don't mind being in debt. Some people do mind being in debt. Like me, I am finally minding being in debt. I realize that it is an actual problem and all that. So I'm making this video to hold myself up to a standard that I really need to hold myself up to. So to be clear, this isn't bashing other people with debt. This is like bashing myself with debt. And this is like a coming clean video. I want to tell people that a lot of people are in debt, and that's not a good thing. Now, of course, you might be saying, oh, please, you're just jibber jabbering about things. Yeah, and I am, because it needs to be talked about, especially in the creative community. Not everyone talks about their debt, and it's kind of like a shame thing. Like, you're ashamed of even having debt. You're ashamed that you got yourself to a point where you're like, oh, look, I'm a terrible person. But let me just clarify, even good people can do bad things. So whether you're a good person, bad person, or whatever, everyone makes mistakes. Everyone is like, oh yeah, I can get out of this really easily, and they can't. And then they make a big mistake, and then they're like, cool, I will tell no one. And how does this relate to the creative mind? Well, let me just tell you, if I wasn't in debt, I could put more of my money towards creative ventures. For example, since I'm an author, I could get a cover designer, I could get a really good editor, you know, I could get all these things that could help me take my stuff to the next level. I could even make a way where I could dedicate more of my time to actually writing. Or if you're a person with children and you want them to be creative, you know, you could, if you weren't in debt, you could like put more money towards that. There's so many reasons why debt is bad, and it actually cripples people. It's not a good thing. Now, I know some people are like, well, if it wasn't for me being able to have this credit card, I wouldn't have insert whatever you have here. But in reality, you don't own that. The credit card company does, because you owe them money. And in all honesty, through all this time that I've been like just simmering on my debt and going, I'll pay it back when I have a good job. I'll pay it back when, something awesome happens, stuff like that. Yeah. I've been in debt. And it's not a good thing. I've been in a position where I can't do what I want with my own money, and I'm just working to pay someone else. And that's called being a debt slave. Being in debt to someone is like being a slave to them. You're working for them. You're not working for yourself. You're working to pay off the debt to them. You don't get to keep that money. Your money flies out the window, and it's really ridiculous and terrible. And see, this is where I got in my whole thinking about debt, is that if I was out of debt, I could afford things. If I was out of debt, I wouldn't have to worry about paying my bills on time. So now you might be wondering, how much debt is a 28-year-old in? Well, let me tell you. You better sit down for this part. Like, seriously, I told my mom and she almost fainted. And I'm only half joking. This is the hard part, where I tell you all and you go, oh my God, I can't believe that. Or you go, oh, not as bad as me. Which I hope it's the first one and not the second one. If you add everything up, I'm in over 100... Okay, I have to say this really quickly or I'm never going to actually get it out. I'm over $100,000 in debt. Okay, that wasn't that bad. So just to repeat, just in case, you had something in your ear or you can't believe it, I, a single 28-year-old, am in $100,000 of debt. So if you're one of those people who aren't in debt as much as me, good for you. And don't just be like, oh, well, I'm not that bad. Please don't be like that. Being in debt of any kind is a bad thing. And we need to start thinking about that, like, not just as individuals, but as a society. We need to start enforcing the whole debt is bad. It used to be a thing before credit cards were invented. Debt's bad, and you shouldn't have it. And if you do have it, you need to get rid of it as fast as you can, which can be really, really hard because, hey, you can get in debt like that. Getting out of debt is not that easy. And even though I'm a single 28-year-old, I don't see a lot of rich dudes knocking on my door saying, hey, would you like to have all my money? So let's break this down. Like, what makes $100,000 of debt? So we're going to go from smallest to biggest, and the biggest one probably won't, surprise any of you, but we're going to do it anyways. And this is all rough estimates. So yes. So I have a Walmart credit card, which is awesome. And it's the fancy MasterCard. Yeah, because, fancy. If you're going to be in debt, be fancy about it. But that's around $3,500. My next thing is Discover. Now, Discover card, they're actually really cool people. I've never had a problem with it. But having a credit card in general makes you spend more than you should. So I'm about $6,000 in debt. This third one, I'm just gonna say it's really stupid because this third one is a loan from Upstart. This loan was a loan from previous credit cards that I had put on this loan because the credit cards has too much high of an interest rate, and this loan has like a 9.5 or something of an interest rate. So a lot less than 24 or 25%. But guess what? I still have credit card debt because I racked up more after I got this loan because, smarts. It started out as $11,500 and I think it's around $6,000 now. I've had it for roughly 3 years. Okay, so this next one is a car. So I bought a car. It was about 3 years old and it was like $18,000 and I got it paid down to $7,000. Well, some weird stuff was happening to it. I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? And instead of being super smart and going and actually looking online and doing all that and getting a roughly $10,000 or less car to just deal with until I get out of debt, I was smart and frustrated enough to go to the dealership I got the first car from, and I got a brand new car, 2019 brand new. So, by the time you're seeing this, it may not be. It depends on when I actually post this. And now I have roughly a $25,000 loan. So, that's smart because smart is smart. And hey, I'm just going to tell you, pro tip, Never go car shopping when you're sick and tired of your old car and you're actually literally tired and all that. And never have anyone, even a loved one, tell you that it's okay to buy this car because at least it's good and you have, you know, all the warranties on it and all that. As long as you have insurance, you're fine, okay? So I'm just telling you, like, it was super stupid. And like a month after, I found a car that I should have bought that was like only $9,000, even though that would have made me even more in debt than my old car, you know, the old car that messed up. It wouldn't have made me more in debt than what I had now. So I'm just saying, don't be stupid. Go with the clunker until you're out of debt. And of course, this last bit, I know some of you will be like, well, duh. So I went to college, and let me tell you this. I went to college and I had my entire bachelor's paid for because apparently these things are smart. Apparently not smart enough to stay out of debt, but smart enough to get scholarships and all that and Pell Grants because I'm too poor. Who knew, right? And my entire bachelor's was paid for. So here's where this debt comes in. I was so smart that I started doing 2 language programs, a Japanese one and a German one. And besides my skills in those languages or lack thereof, which we can get on to another video, which is totally entirely by itself. Let me just say that going to Japan was awesome and going to Germany was awesome, but a little less awesome than going to Japan because I'm a nerd. And that's a whole nother thing in itself. And between those 2 trips in my bachelor years and getting a master's, instead of doing 1 year of it, I had to do 2 years of it, which that's a whole nother thing in and of itself. I got roughly $67,000 in student loan debt. And because life is fun and interest occurs, even if it is only less than 6% and all that on interest, the loans that I had taken out are now up to like 70,000 because of other debt. I'm too poor to pay on this debt. So you see the whole thing. Now, I know some of you could be like, well, that's why they need to pay off student loan debt and like have it for free. But let me be real with every single one of you right now. The reason I'm in debt is because of me. I'm the reason I'm in debt. Did I have to go to Japan and Germany during my school year? On a school trip? No, I did not. I could have gotten done with my bachelor's and went then, but I didn't wait. I wanted it now. And what about my master's? What about that? For one, I should have thought about it more, which that's a whole nother thing. But for two, I could have worked hard to find scholarships, like harder than I did. I did work hard. But going into my bachelor's and all that, I worked my butt off finding scholarships. I should have worked that hard or even harder to find some for masters. And not just even with my student loans, my Walmart, my Discover cards, my loan from Upstart, my car payment and all that. That was all me. I'm the type of person, like if you've seen any of my other videos, I'm the type of person that's like, do your research. Do your research. Figure out what you need to figure out. Which is really good advice. But like Alice in Wonderland, I should have taken my own advice. Who knew, right? So yes, all of this debt, the over $100,000 in debt, is all my fault. And you don't know how hard it is to actually say that, not just to yourself, but to an entire community out there on the internet. But that's even more reason to say that this is my fault. No one made me spend that money. Whether or not it was someone else's fault, you need to take responsibility for your own actions. Because at the end of the day, you're the one that decided to spend the money. And see, it's something I had to tell myself. I'm the reason why I'm in debt. I spent that money. I can't get mad at the card companies for having outrageous interest rates because it's my fault that I actually went with them. See, I'm in this country called America, the United States of America, where we have freedom. So it was my freedom and my choice to get into debt in the first place. It was no one else's. It was not my parents. It was not the government. It was not my friends. It was my fault. See, that's the first step. If you could admit that, even you don't have to make a video like me. Don't worry. You don't have to go in front of thousands of people or millions or please, I probably won't have that many people watch this video. You just have to admit it to yourself. Look yourself in the mirror and be like, it's my fault I got into debt. That's the first thing. See, I'm this person who does research, but doesn't always take her advice. So as I'm doing this research of like how to get out of debt, I found out and figured and then just put it all together that that's the first step. to admit that it's your fault you did it. Even if it's someone else's fault, just say, I'm the one that spent the money. It's my fault I got into debt. So what's the second thing? Like, where do we go from here? Because we already know I'm in debt. The next part is to figure out how I get into debt, where when I do get out of it, I don't get back into it. Because, you know, that's the big no-no. Don't get back into debt. Like, if you actually pay off everything and get out of debt, don't get back into debt. And I can remember this time a couple years ago, and I think it was before going to Japan, or maybe it was after, I can't remember, but I was completely out of debt and I felt exhilarated. But I didn't figure out how I got into debt, so I got back into debt. So you can't really tell from my loan and all that, or like, of course, the car, yeah, that's a car. That's how I got into debt, because I wanted a good car, but I didn't want to wait for a good car. Or I didn't want to wait for a good-looking car. Cars that are more than 5 years old are still good cars. Maybe not all of them, but most of them are. And of course, the student loans, I already know. I went to Japan, I went to Germany on school trips, and then I went and got a master's. But what about the credit cards? Where do those come from? And the loan. So the loan was from previous credit cards that I don't have anymore, but looking back at the time of when that money had come, it was because I was going to anime conventions. The expense of anime conventions depends on how many people are going with you and which convention you're going to. Because some of them are small and really close, or some of them can be very expensive and really far away, or a variation of those things. So a lot of it was going to conventions and hanging out with friends there, plus buying stuff at those conventions. And if you actually look around my room, you can see some of it still. A lot of merch from anime conventions. And there's also one other thing that goes with anime conventions. If you were able to look at my closet, you could see a lot of cosplay. And making really good cosplay, you can do it really cheaply. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. You can like pull a regular shirt or not everything out of your closet, or you can go to Goodwill, because Goodwill rocks, and you could find stuff for cosplay. But if you want to do something super fancy, like a Belle costume or something like that, you might need a crap ton of material, and sometimes the really good looking crap ton of material can be expensive. And another reason why I have credit card debt isn't just because of that. It's because of I like to give gifts to friends, family, and all that. I'm this type of person who, if I see something that I'm like, oh my gosh, person A would so love this, I like to get it if it's not too expensive, which is kind of funny because I'm in debt, but whatever, and give it to that person, whether or not it's their birthday or Christmas or whatever. I just like giving gifts. And so with the anime conventions and the cosplay and buying random gifts for friends and other things, and I'm like, this is just coming to mind, I love going to eat out and hanging out with friends that way. So I really don't go to the movies now, but I used to go out to the movies a lot with a couple of friends, and I used to eat out a lot with a couple of friends, because that was a way where we could just all hang out and eat and have fun. And, you know, I used to just buy random things, small things. See, most of my debt isn't really big. It's very small things, but a lot of them. One of the other things I've done is buy gas. And this isn't like, oh no, I'm down to my last cent, I need gas to get home. No. This is, I'm buying gas and then not actually paying it off at the end. But hey, I get that gas credit on that one credit card and, you know, mileage points or whatever. So, and that's another question. Why should I get out of debt? Well, for one, it can be really good for you because, hey, you can get out of debt. So you can be free and be the master of your own money and not have anyone else tell you this is how you should spend it. But also think of personal reasons. For me, I could spend time with friends. I could do a lot of things. I can save up and go to anime conventions. I can finally get out of debt and actually own the things that I bought. Because I'm weird and quirky and all that, that is actually really inspiring. It's like, hey, I actually own this item. My card does not. And more than just that, as a creative person, I could start saving up for things that I really want, like really cool covers, an editor, going to writing convention, going to these places that like I can meet other creative minds and actually make a rapport with them and, you know, just share nerdiness and all that. And also going to anime conventions, which I actually think I've said before, but this time it will be because, you know, I saved up, not because I'm just going into debt again. So yeah. And then the fourth question, I know it's my fault. I know how I got into it. I know why I want to get out of it, but then how do I actually get out of it? So there's this old man. Okay, that's not fair. When he started this, he wasn't old. But now he's old and he's more mature and he's done dumb things, but now he's like really rich. So, you know. So this man, his name is Dave Ramsey, and he's such a really cool dude. And I know some of you might go, ew, that guy, ugh. Or some of you might be like, wait, who? And I'm not going to go into his whole story. You know, you can probably find one of his videos where he actually goes into the story. So Dave Ramsey has this cool system, and it's only 7. It's only 7 steps. Simple. Maybe not easy because, you know, you actually have to put work into it, but simple. And I'm not going to go too far into it. And the first one is to make an emergency fund. Like, just in case something bad happens while you're paying off your debt, you don't have to freak out. And it's not too big where you feel super comfortable and you don't want to work off your debt. And so the emergency fund is around $1,000. And in all honesty, that's a lot of money to me. Somehow, some way, thank the Lord, I was able to scrape up $1,000. Now, this was, of course, me not eating out, not doing things with friends, making myself feel really bad because I couldn't do anything with friends, but hey, it's my fault. I got into this, so do it anyways. And let me tell you, I've actually had times where I got that money and started paying off my debt, and then something bad happens, like, you know, that really old car breaking down, and I had to pay $600 some odd for it. In all honesty, y'all, I've been beaten up so much about this stupid emergency fund, and I'm so done with it. But I actually have the whole thing. And of course, this is where I'm going to get teary for some odd reason. But yeah, I have all of it. I have that $1,000. It's in the bank. It's saved. It's pushed to the side. I actually have a separate bank account with it in it. So just in case there's a huge emergency and I need to take it out, it's not going to be like, oh, cool, I had to sign my life away just to take it out. In all honesty, I really wish I would have started the series sooner because I've been very emotional. Like, I've tried to start this and stop this, like I've said. I actually have $1,000 in emergency fund. And that is ecstatic. So I have $1,000 emergency fund just in case something stupid happens, which it has multiple times. But now I'm on to step 2, and what is that? That is paying off my debt. And of course, if you were paying attention, I have some of the stuff paid off, or some of the things like lowered and all that now. Even though it's really hard to come up with all this money, and I'm like, how in the world did I think that $100,000 of debt was a good thing? Because, you know, bits and stuff like that, and having student loans that you don't even notice when you're actually in school because people tell you to ignore it even though you shouldn't, and you should go out and actually get yourself some federal aid or grants or something. Work extra hard to get free money, basically, which it's not really free money, but at least you don't have to pay it back. So anyways, yes. So the takeaway of all this is that no matter how much in debt you are, debt's always bad. I don't care who says what. Debt is bad. You owe someone else everything. It's not just about owing someone money. It's about owing someone money that you have to work towards. So your time goes to paying them off and not to having the life that you want. Debt's bad. Own up to it. Whether or not it's actually your fault, own up to it. You're the one that made the decision, the choice. And of course, I'm saying you, but I actually mean me. I'm the one that made the choice. I'm owning up to it. Figure out how you got into it, and then figure out how you're going to get out of it. Don't stay in debt. And if you think, oh gosh, this is going to be really hard, I don't want to try. Excuse me very much. I'm a single 28-year-old who is over $100,000 in debt. And that single part may sound like really awesome and cool because, you know, I don't have kids right now, so I don't have to worry about other life beings. And I don't have a husband, so I don't have to worry about that life being as well. But for the fact that I'm doing this basically alone, that's the scary part. It's only because of God that I've gotten this far. And it's going to be because of Him that I get out of it entirely. So, anyways, I think I'll leave you all here. When there's an update, I will tell you. And I hope I can tell you real soon.